Hello, welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. So I know that this video is going to post after severe weather hits our area. More than likely, we are fine. It doesn't mean that we didn't have to go to the tornado shelter. I'm sure I will update you by the end of this video. Originally, when we moved to this area, we live in southwestern Kentucky from Kansas. I honestly didn't expect to be dealing with more tornado pressure than we had to deal with when we lived in the plains. So Kansas is pretty well known for being in Tornado Alley, Kansas, Oklahoma, and there are a lot of tornadoes out there. One of the reasons that that area is a little bit more well known for tornadoes is that they have a more picturesque type tornado that happens. They're bigger ones, some of the ones that you get like the best storm chase videos and things of. But we live, like I mentioned, in southwestern Kentucky, and it's called Dixie Alley. And Dixie Alley is also pretty well known for its tornadoes. They are smaller, but they can be pretty frequent. And we do, unfortunately, get some close calls every once in a while. A few years ago, we had one about 2 miles that way. That was an EF2 when it passed us, but it strengthened to an EF3 and went through Bowling Green and did a lot of damage. Thankfully, no lives were lost. And then last spring, we had one that went this way, which is north of us by a couple miles. That one was a little bit further away and caused only tree damage down there. But we have a double wide mobile home that we live in, and those kinds of things, they're not any kind of secure for that kind of thing. So we do have a tornado shelter, and I'm very glad that we put that in. We have already had to take shelter in here once this season. I want to make sure that there's no wasps building nests. Sometimes they do up here. Well, looks pretty good. But anyway, the reason that I am talking about the weather today is that it really does matter when it comes to homesteading. You really need to know what's going on pretty much at all times, not only for your animals, but for your plants and for your infrastructure. So it was 2 years ago that we had, I think it was considered a derecho here. From what I understand, a weather phenomenon called a derecho is like a large wall of wind. It has to be so many miles long, and the minimum speed for the wind, I think, has to be 58 miles an hour, and it may have to be at some kind of consistent rate. I am not sure. I just know that a couple years ago it was real bad, and our gusts were between 70 and 80 miles an hour, and it actually tore down, it blew down the kids' swing set, and it tore a big hole in the roof of our barn over there, which we have since fixed. It threatened to take our carport away. One of our rabbit tractors flipped over. It really wasn't bad considering how intense the winds were that day, but I have that in the forefront of my mind right now because that's the kind of wind that we are forecasted coming up. So I'm going to have to be doing some things on the farm to prepare for that. I will be moving around some bunnies and things and helping secure all the things that were a little bit less secure last time we had some big wind. But first I need to plant some onions. I've been working on getting our greenhouse onion project underway, and I have half the greenhouse planted right now. I did plant up to that little stake right there in garlic. It's a little bit late for garlic, but historically I do plant garlic late. Actually, one time I planted garlic in July and harvested in October, and the garlic was good. So I think that garlic does have a measure of forgiveness as long as the type of garlic that you have either doesn't need chill hours or it has been given chill hours either in like a root cellar situation or in the refrigerator. And this one's been in the fridge for some time. It's the silver something. I also have some elephant garlic that I want to plant, but I need to focus on the onions first. I think I have less of a forgiving time window to plant those. I brought out several of the yellow onions to plant today. These are from Dixondale Farms. The last time I showed a planting onion video, I neglected to tell you exactly what types these are, so I'll put that on the screen. I had just purchased whatever intermediate day onion that they suggested. I'm not an expert at growing onions by any means. I have had a measure of success in the past, but this is the first time I've planted a whole bunch of onions, and it's actually the first time that I've planted them from first year plants. I planted most of what I've already done, about one plant every 4 inches. But one of my subscribers who lives in Canada mentioned that they have seen that if you plant 3 onions together every 6 inches, you get more poundage of onions for the space. So I'm gonna test that out. So 3 onions bunched together in a clump like this about every 6 inches. And I'm already seeing tomato volunteers. I expected to see them soon, but in this bed we don't want any competition with the onions. Onions do not like competition, so we are not going to allow them to grow. So in all honesty, I would say a significant amount of weather anxiety. I feel like I handle it pretty okay, but I do get nervous enough to have like gastrointestinal symptoms when severe weather comes in, and usually what happens is I get almost hyper focused and I cannot think about anything else. So I've been trying to relax a little bit more when it comes to severe weather. I've been made fun of quite a lot here on my YouTube channel for being anxious about the weather. Can't really do anything about it. I'm not here to like impress people. I'm just here to show who I am, and this is part of who I am. I am getting a lot better about it, going through the different experiences like the intense winds from last year. Because of that, I now know what our infrastructure can handle, and I'm going into this severe weather weekend with a little bit more confidence because we've gone through it before. Because our winds can be pretty intense, really almost year round. Whenever we get a storm, it's almost never a nice calm rainstorm or a nice thunderstorm that you can sleep really well through. It always comes with some measure of wind. I think that planting the onions in here in the greenhouse is going to give us a little bit more success than I've had in past years, because in past years the intense winds have actually knocked over the greens to our onion plants. These greens will get nice and tall. Each leaf represents one layer of onion, and really once the tops break or flop over, that really signals the plant to stop producing leaves, so it will stop producing layers and to mature the layers that it does have in the bulb down below. But I think that we've had some premature, like essentially chopping of the onion tops in years past that have made us get smaller onions. So hopefully, because I do close the sides of the greenhouse during windstorms, that will prevent the tops from prematurely cracking and bending, and maybe we'll get bigger onions. Now these onions that are planted close together, these are going to be smaller, but they're going to be a nice little bunch of onions. And like I said, maybe we'll get more poundage of onion for the space. We're just going to have to see. There. One of the things that I have noticed that I did not notice last year was a lot of earthworms in this soil. Now these raised beds are new as of last year, and I had hoped that we would get some earthworm activity in the beds. They're just coming up out of the clay soil that these beds are sat on top of. There is weed fabric between these beds and the ground, but because I had previously planted through that weed fabric, there are some holes, and I'm guessing that's how the earthworms are entering the beds. It's perfect. I had hoped that that would happen, and they're coming out a lot while I'm planting onions, so they're making themselves known, and they are totally welcome. There's really not a whole bunch of pieces of mulch in this bed. Very likely I did not put mulch on top of this bed when I sowed it last year, because I did put some stuff in here from seed, and I tend to delay my mulching when I do that, just so the seedlings can pop up through the soil and not have to compete with the mulch. Well, one of the things that I've been doing when I've been planting the beds is planting them out like this, and then snagging the mulch from the bed next door to mulch this, and then that will free up the soil on that side to be amended, and then I can plant and then take the mulch from the next bed over. You do see some little things on top. These are actually leaves from some of the peppers that I had growing right here. This is fine. This is food for those lovely earthworms, and they'll eat those and then poop out some worm castings for me, feed the onions. It's a wonderful circle. Hi, Nefarious. Hi, Mooch.
There.
Not gonna go anywhere.
No.
He's gonna go get another strap. So, a couple years ago, that storm that I talked about, he left for work that morning and he noticed that the carport was swaying a little bit. So he had decided that morning that just as a precaution, he would put a ratchet strap up through the carport and attach it to the tractor. Well, it just so happened that the wind tried to take our carport away and slam it into our brand new shed that we had just built and probably hurt our house and power lines and whatever else. And that ratchet strap caught it and it didn't go anywhere. It did lift up out of the ground. Like, we have had to rebury it and put new rebar down in, but so it's been secured. However, they've kind of upgraded us to potentially seeing 90-mile-per-hour winds tomorrow. And I don't think we've seen that.
Carport bowed down a little, so it's tight.
It was 6 years ago now at this point that I built this Saskovich style chicken tractor, put a tarp over it, and raised my first batch of meat chickens. I had 30 broiler chickens in here and I ran them around our back pasture, and it really was a very empowering experience, except about 4 weeks into raising those chickens, we got a storm. I knew it was coming. Right before the storm hit, I could see like the squall line. You can usually see like a nice shelf cloud or whatever coming towards you. And I ran into the chicken tractor, filled their water, and then ran out, locked them, and ran back to the house. By the time I got back to the house, my daughter, my oldest daughter, who was really small at the time, said, "Mommy, that thing flew." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "The white thing, it flew." And so I turned around and my chicken tractor was not where I left it. So everything looked different at the time. The chicken run was a lot smaller, but it had been like in between this little structure and that structure, just about. It was like right there. And when I turned around and looked, the tractor had traveled basically a little bit past where this little structure is here. We essentially built our fire pit where the previous family had their fire pit. I think it may be a little bit further over, but in any case, it landed about right here from over there. And like I mentioned, I had filled their water beforehand. The water hang from the middle of the chicken tractor and was a 40-pound, when full, bucket of water with the little nipples that point down the chickens can get to. Plus the tractor itself, I mean, it's not super light, but the wind carried it that far. I didn't see it tumble through the sky. My daughter did. She doesn't remember how it went, but I know that it was bent and I had to fix it, and I had to take up all 30 chickens in my arms and shove them in this little chicken coop right here with my layers that I had. It ended up working out, but it had me realizing when we have high wind situations around here, I really need to take them seriously, because things that I think are heavy enough to stand may not be. Now, they are forecasting winds that I personally haven't seen while living on this farm. I don't think. 90 miles an hour, potentially. I know we've seen 70, potentially 75, the day that the roof, part of the roof of the green part of the barn, peeled back. And on that day, this didn't move, but it hasn't seen 90 to my knowledge. So I'm gonna secure this down. Because at this point, I am expecting some damage. I feel like you couldn't not expect damage with 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts. At least some trees down, limbs down, something. So whatever I can control, I'm gonna try my best to control, because I don't want that thing flying into our new barn extension. This rabbit here is one of our retired does. Her name is Fluffles. And I don't love these small cages. I have used them for breeders in the past. They're only 2x2. So for smaller breeds, they're okay. It's really not ideal. She's only going to be in this cage for the duration of the storm, and then I'm going to rearrange again. But I needed to use her cage because it's bigger. It's like 30 inches by 36 because I've got some rabbits that I would like to pull out of our tractors. That's why I scruff the bunnies the way I do sometimes. But I do have rabbit sleeves. It's just when I'm trying to work, I don't really want to take the time to find them. But anyways, these rabbit tractors are the type that did come off of their blocks during the last windstorm. I'm gonna put some like soil bags and stuff on top just so they don't blow around a lot and hit some other things. But right now there's no bunnies in here. We're gonna move these guys to the indoor rabbitry. This is a little bit smaller than where they were, but this is going to be safer for them in here. Our most prevalent winds are coming from the south, which is that way. And a lot of times we'll have wind coming from the west as well, which is that way. Good morning, girls. It has been a couple days. As you can probably tell, things are exactly how we left them, which I'm very grateful for. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. That's how it goes, right? This time we actually did receive the best. The storms, I stayed up all night. That first night, we had storms for 2 days. I stayed up all night watching different live streams in the radar and whatever, and the storms were pretty destructive in places like Arkansas and Missouri. But really, by the time they got to about Paducah, Kentucky, which is an hour away from us, they just stopped. Like, they dissolved. They turned into regular rainstorms with a decent amount of wind, but nothing abnormal for springtime here, and we're fine, and I'm grateful. Good morning, Chloe. Your wallow's full now. Definitely tell it's officially spring because it can rain a whole bunch and I can walk around on the ground and not sink in. The grass is starting to grow, so the roots are activated, soaking up a lot of the moisture. As you noticed, I am lugging around the milking machine with me this morning. That's because I am machine milking at this point. The girls are making I get about 2 to 2.5 gallons a day, depending on when I catch them, if the babies have gotten to them or not. I have not been pulling babies at night. I haven't needed to. 2.5 gallons of milk is more than enough for me to figure out what to do with. I'm not going to be adding that process into this vlog because I already know it's long enough, but I do have this video up here showing the whole process of machine milking. I'll see you over there.